My coworker tried to get me fired for having breast implants. She didn't know they were from a preventative mastectomy, and she certainly didn't expect me to turn her HR complaint against her. 4 years ago, when I was 24, my mother died of breast cancer. Since both of my grandmothers had also died of it, I saw a specialist for a screening. I found out I had cells in one of my breasts that could turn cancerous at any moment. I was given a few options. I could have regular screenings every few months, get a single mastectomy, or get a bilateral mastectomy to eliminate the risk entirely. I went for the bilateral mastectomy. It was a drastic choice, but after seeing what cancer did to my family, I didn't want to risk it. But the surgery left me with huge, pink, jagged scars on my chest. It threw me into a severe depression. I couldn't even leave my flat or look in a mirror without getting physically sick. My therapist eventually suggested seeing a plastic surgeon. While they didn't normally recommend cosmetic surgery, they could see how much I was struggling. The surgeon suggested implants to help cover and fill out the scarred area. My natural size had been an F cup, so I chose a slightly smaller double D. The change was life-saving. My mental health improved, my self-esteem returned, and the awful bright pink scars were finally hidden. Fast forward to the present day. I am 28 now, working in an office and doing much better. But then my coworker Jill overheard a friend joking about my implants. By the end of the day, Jill had told the entire office that I had a boob job. Jill didn't know my medical history, only that I had implants. Over the next 3 months, she made constant jokes and remarks about my chest. Within my earshot, she called me more plastic than Barbie and fake in 2 ways. A friend even told me Jill referred to me as a sack of silicone. I asked her to stop multiple times, but she always cornered me in areas without cameras, like the lift or the women's bathroom. She just kept doing it, averaging about 3 comments a week. It was exhausting. I finally hit my breaking point during lunch in the break room. I made a comment about something being shallow, and Jill smirked, gesturing to my chest and said, "You'd know all about being shallow." I snapped. I looked right at her and said, "Do you know why I have these? A few years ago, doctors found potentially cancerous cells. I had to get a mastectomy and was left with huge, painful scars. I got implants so I could look in a mirror without crying. So next time you want to judge someone, maybe ask why they had surgery first." I picked up my food and walked out. Afterward, a third of the office offered support, but the rest claimed Jill was just joking and called me a bitch. Then I received an email from HR about a hostile work environment complaint. It was signed by Debbie, who I knew was Jill's close friend. I realized they were trying to set me up, so I needed ammunition. I remembered a section in my contract about complaints. It stated that employees could request an impartial overseer if they believed their HR reviewer was biased. I photocopied that page and highlighted the clause. Next, I messaged the coworkers who had supported me, asking if they would sign statements about Jill's harassment. To my surprise, 16 people agreed. Many of them wrote down specific insults Jill had used against them or others, revealing she also mocked one coworker's weight and made anti-Semitic comments about another's nose. I printed everything out, put the signed letters in a folder, and prepared for my meeting. At 10 yesterday morning, I walked into HR. Debbie was waiting to lead me into a private room. I immediately turned to the other HR representative present and asked if my meeting was with them instead. Debbie snapped that I was with her. I pulled out the contract photocopy and said, "My contract states I have a right to an impartial overseer. I know you are close friends with Jill, the person who filed this complaint." Debbie looked furious, but insisted she could be impartial. I stood my ground. She stomped off to find the supervisor. After hearing my objection, the supervisor agreed to step in, bringing the other HR rep with him. The interview began, and Debbie looked absolutely homicidal. They asked why I believed Jill had reported me and why I hadn't come to HR earlier. I explained my entire medical history, giving them full permission to review my medical files. Then I laid my folder of 16 signed statements on the desk. The supervisor read through the letters, which detailed months of Jill's constant toxic comments. I explained the lunchroom confrontation, noting that there were cameras in the room and multiple witnesses who could verify what happened. I admitted I could have handled it better, but explained that after 3 months of silent harassment, I had finally put my foot down. The supervisor stood up, shook my hand, and sent me back to my desk, saying they would make a decision after reviewing everything. Over the next few hours, HR called in every single witness and letter writer one by one. The office was quiet as colleague after colleague spent 10 minutes in the meeting room. Finally, Jill was called in. She was in there for 30 minutes and came back to her desk fuming, glaring daggers at me. An hour later, she was called back to HR. When she returned, she packed up her desk in a rage, shouting that I had gotten her fired. HR sent an email shortly after. My case was closed and she was gone.